Hi, Kelly here, and today I'm giving you my thoughts on Glastonbudget. This year, the festival celebrated its 20th birthday at Turnpost Farm in Wymeswold, Leicestershire. But was the celebration one for the history books, or was the party over before it even started? Well, I took advantage of my gifted ticket, once again, thanks guys, to find the answer to the all-important question. Is Glastonbudget worth your money or not? Arrived this year on the Thursday to allow us to fully take advantage of our 4-day camping ticket. This year, Glastonbudget scrapped the 3-day camping, which meant that people wanting to camp who couldn't take the time off work ended up missing some of the acts that were live on the Thursday evening, despite paying to see said acts when they brought their ticket. I would love to see the team bring back the 3-day tickets alongside the 4-day ones, and potentially a 2-day camping ticket's been on the card in the future for people who can't get the time off work, similar to what Forbidden Forest offer. After pulling up to the car parking area, we headed to the box office to snag our wristbands and then head towards the campsite. Here we had my first niggle. This year, all mass events are having to implement additional protective measures compared to previous years. If you think the measures are going overboard, please watch the news and see what happened in Liverpool, because it's incidents like that that have prompted these measures to be put in place to begin with. Now, because it's the first year that these measures have been put in place, there were naturally some teething problems, specifically how slow the queue was between the box office and the campsite, because you were having to empty out all your bags, the full down the lot. And the kicker was, if you needed to go back to your car, because let's face it, you're going to be doing 2 journeys between the car and your campsite, unless your trolley is the size of your car, you have to go through that queue again. So Lee and I ended up adopting the divide and conquer strategy, where I assembled the tent whilst he grabbed the rest of the items from his car. He returned about an hour later. So if there's a group of you going next year, I'd advise adopting that same divide and conquer strategy after you've all collected your initial wristbands and done the first lap, quote unquote, to the campsite. There were 2 saving graces during the safety check conga. The first was the ability to net tinnies whilst you waited, a grace that I did not partake in because I foolishly left my tinnies in the car during lap 1. And the second was the ability to talk to random people in the queue without coming across as a weirdo. Look, I have been doing this My Melton Lark for over 6 years now, and I have encountered various dickheads during that time. I have yet to encounter them at Glastonbudget. It's just so easy to strike up a conversation here. Kids were being supported during their first mosh pit experience. Random duets were happening between sets. I was helped by a lovely middle-aged gentleman after struggling to put the pole pin in the hole whilst assembling my tent. It's a beautiful community, and long may it continue. Another new introduction is the showers. Now, in previous years, showers were included in your camping ticket price. VIP camping had posh showers. Standard had peasant ones with questionable water pressure. This year, everybody had to pay for the showers in some capacity, either via the Camping Plus upgrade, which we'll cover shortly, the shower wristband, which set you back £10 per person, or just paying £5 per person for a single shower across the whole weekend. Now, the showers themselves were excellent, the blocks were a good size, the water was the right temperature, and the light up mirror was great, whilst the morning queues were manageable due to the quantity of the showers and the effectiveness of the staff manning said showers. The only thing I disliked was that the shower block was only open from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. Now, bear in mind that the headline act each night started at 10 p.m, rounded off about 11. So if you plan to enter the arena and spend the whole day there, you could only shower in the morning. You couldn't shower at night. If I'm paying £10 to use a shower, I do not think it is unreasonable to ask that said shower is available in the evening when I'm sweaty and grimy from dancing all day. There were multiple times that I wanted to take a shower in the evening because I'd been dancing non-stop, and I couldn't until the day after, and that slightly annoyed me. Now for Camping Plus. Lee and I stopped in standard camping, and I want to highlight that to explain my thoughts about Camping Plus. This year, Camping Plus set you back an additional £80 per pitch, and that pitch was suitable for either one 4-man tent or two 2-man tents. This upgrade included a wristband per person in said pitch to access the posh showers, a bigger pitch, and the ability to reserve your spot in advance, alongside being able to use flushing loos. In theory, it was also going to allow you to be closer to the main arena. Now, said showers was in the standard campsite. In fact, our tent was actually closer to the shower block than the tents in Camping Plus. In addition, everyone, irrespective of whether they're in standard or Camping Plus, enters the arena the same way due to the aforementioned safety precautions that I discussed earlier on in this review, meaning there is a 30 to 40 step difference between the campsite entrances and said arena. And you're going to be searched when you enter the arena, so you're all going to be queuing on the same patch of grass anyway whilst you wait to be searched. This means all it takes is one delayed arena opening, and suddenly it's quicker to enter the arena if you're based in standard compared to Camping Plus, because the queue is backed up to the point it's in the standard campsite. That happened twice over the weekend, by the way. Not to mention that there is actually plenty of pitch space in standard, especially by the entrance to the campsite, which is where Lee and I pitched up. So, as a peasant who camped in standard, I do have to question whether it's actually worth paying the extra 80 quid, unless there is a large group of you who are travelling from different parts of the country. So, stack hen parties, family reunions, that sort of thing. I would love to see Camping Plus built on further, so it becomes the true successor for the former VIP camping of old. Lee suggested the idea of a parking spot next to your pitch, and I thought that was bloody brilliant. And I think that the Camping Plus guys also should have their own shower block separate to the ones in standard camping, alongside a separate entrance by the main stage, barring it is feasible with these new regs, because the entrance took you by the big top. So you had to walk to the other side to get to the main stage. Of course, the festival is only as good as the acts in the arena. If they're crap, you're in for a rubbish weekend. Fortunately, the brilliant music variety is something that carries a festival like Glastonbudget. The lineup is the festival's biggest strength by a country mile, and there were multiple acts that should have been further up the card, in my opinion. Specifically, ABBA Revival, the moderators, and Vicky Jackson as Pink. I have since been made aware by the old socials that Vicky Jackson had to go and entertain the LGBTQ plus Brummies at Birmingham Pride this year, which probably explains why she was the opener on Sunday. But I've still not got any reasoning about ABBA and the moderators' mind at the time of recording this video. And I wouldn't be mad if ABBA Revival and Vicky Jackson headline next year, because I think both of them could carry that role quite well. Other acts I've loved included Forever 80s, who have yet to drop a bad set in the 3 years that I've attended Glastonbudget, but for the first time ever, they're not in my top 3. Top 5, yes, but not top 3. My top 3 this year were Alanis, which was Alanis Morissette tribute, the Eminem show, and my favourite of the whole weekend was Meteora, who were a Linkin Park tribute. The atmosphere in that bloody tent when these guys performed was electric. Only at Glastonbudget can you have Jesus Christ himself orchestrate a successful and responsible mosh pit whilst in the end is being performed at full blast. I sincerely hope that the multiple posts of praise on the socials, alongside everybody's verbal feedback, mine included, prompts the organisers to bring them back next year. If they headline, I will be an incredibly happy duck. Long time Glastonbudget goers, so those of you that have been more than 3 years, has there ever been a wall of death in the crowd? Because I know we've had like multiple mosh pits with like Jilty Generation and Missoura, but I've yet to see and experience the wall in person. And in the meantime, Glastonbudget organisers, can we orchestrate a responsible wall without your insurance company and or the council having a cardiac arrest in the process. By the way, if you're wondering who rounded up my top 5, it was Sabotage, who were a Black Sabbath tribute, who unfortunately lost marks because their set was cut too short. So organisers, if you could bring these guys back next year as a way to atone for the sin, that would be great. I did have a couple of arena-based niggles, the biggest one being that there wasn't a headliner at the Big Top like there was in previous years. In previous years, the Big Top had like a big headliner on the Friday night, big one on the Saturday night, and then not one on the Sunday because everyone would gather to the main stage for that headliner. This year, the expectation was everyone gathered for the headliner across all 3 days, which is a lovely sentiment, love the community feel. But if you're not an Oasis Prodigy or Queen fan, you were buggered until the silent disco or the party in the pub. The second niggle is more of a personal one due to my seizures, and that's that somebody at Glastonbudget really liked using the strobe, to the point where I argue it was kind of borderline excessive, especially when it got dark. Like, no joke, Jilted Generation's set had so many of those stroby buggers that it made my CT scan look mild, and as a result I had to peace out earlier than planned so that I didn't have a cheeky trip to A&E, which is a crying shame because once again those guys were brilliant and I was quite happily moshing away until the strobe got too much. So if you are a fellow photosensitive chicken, please sit further back when it starts to get dark so you can make a quick exit in the instant that it gets too flashy. And those of you running the lights, please turn down the strobe. Little bit, fine, but let's not make the whole set just strobe, please. Now, somewhere one could escape to is the fairground. Now, the fair was slightly controversial because it had music, same as literally every other fair in the UK. The problem was that the fair was open at the same time the acts were on stage, as to be expected when they're in an arena. So if one liked the on-stage stuff, you couldn't fully hear the on-stage stuff without hearing the fair music in the background. And if you're like me, who wanted to go feral to the fairground tunes, you couldn't do that because there was a stage of music that was playing over the top and a lack of dancing space, which meant you couldn't dance to the tunes at the fairground. Now, given that Fateboy Slim has done the last 2 Glastonbudgets, including this one, and that there were multiple DJs in the area, and that's without the ones that have done the silent disco, of which there is a dance channel, I could totally see the implementation of a dance tent in the future with the fair being based in that area so that the music fits as opposed to clashes. Don't forget that before last year's festival, we used to have 4 stages in the arena. The 2024 festival just scrapped 2 of them. Whilst my arch nemesis, the Tokens, had returned for another year, I was once again impressed by the variety of beverages available at the bar. I treated myself to a couple of cocktails during the weekend, which were excellent. Special mention goes to the Leicester lads, who made me one of the best non-frozen pina coladas that I have ever drank. Lee and I also took advantage of their brand new happy hour on multiple occasions throughout the weekend, and I hope it returns for 2026. Discounted cocktails just hit different, especially when you're drinking them at a silent disco. Speaking of said silent disco, let me touch on that for a second. This is an optional charge piece of entertainment. It's £15 per person per night. Happened all 3 nights, the Friday, the Saturday and the Sunday, and you get £10 of 15 back at the end of that particular night, barring you return the headphones in the same state that you got them. Now, this £10 is a cash payment irrespective of how you paid, so bear this in mind when you're looking at finances, whether to take cash with you, etc. I think this is a must-do activity. It was the longest lasting at the after stage entertainment there was. The DJs featured everything from Welcome to the Black Parades to Flow Riders Low. So there is bound to be a track across the 3 channels that you consider a banger. And I would be lying if I said there were multiple times that I had 3 bangers in each channel. And it ended up being like picking my favourite dog. In short, Glastonbudget is a must-do event regardless of your age. It's a very welcoming festival that has a great atmosphere whilst not being super overwhelming for first-time festival goers. I would highly recommend standard camping. As for Camping Plus, I would advise to look at if any additional perks are offered for 2026 before you pay for that upgrade. Regardless, though, you need to go and check out this festival if you haven't already, because it is absolutely brilliant. And the fact it's right on our doorstep is something that needs to be shouted about on the rooftops. For more reviews about events and different businesses within the Melton Mowbray Borough, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and share this to anyone considering going to Glastonbudget next year.